since we met, but it's good to see everyone, and thank you all for being here. I want to highlight just a few brief announcements. Next Sunday, we are going to very briefly highlight, besides a regular part of our service, very briefly highlight an announcement about UU the Vote, which is a national effort by the Unitarian Universalist Organization to encourage registering to vote, as well as everyone requesting a vote by mail ballot, or actually encouraging those that do not vote by mail to show up in person on November 6th and actually vote. It's a nationwide effort by UUs to drive out the vote for this most important of upcoming elections. In 2 weeks from today, we will resume our monthly practice of holding a Spark announcement where we feature an organization or activity that the Gathering in Northern Hills supports. And as a way to initiate that, I encourage one and all to register for our online giving account or system or platform called Givelify. There are details in your announcement insert this week about that, as well as in bi-weekly harbingers. And if you need help, you can contact Sue Klein how to register. But once you've registered, it's a very, very easy way to donate to GNH or the causes we support. You may never use it, or you may only use it once every couple of months. But by having an account, when you do want to use it, it makes it very, very easy. And many people may choose to use Givelify for the upcoming fall auction. A third announcement here is encouraging everyone to please stay in touch with your small group, your small support group and its members. Contact one another, support one another, help to further enhance the fact that we are a beloved congregation. And last but not least, want to highlight an exciting event coming up for the Gathering in Northern Hills, and that will be our first ever online auction. It will be held for 1 week's time, from September 26th to October 3rd. Betsy Anderson and her Ways and Means auction team have done a lot of planning. Alan Garrison has written himself unbelievable software that will enable us to do an online auction. And on Saturday, September 26th, we will have a kickoff Zoom event. It'll be very fun. We encourage people to treat it kind of like a happy hour, wear a festive Hawaiian attire, a Hawaiian shirt you hardly ever wear, but to wear it to that event. And we will have auctioneers who will describe and feature various highlighted auction items. And then you'll have a whole week to join in the bidding process and the fun throughout a whole week, and hopefully gain some interesting, worthwhile, valuable items in our auction, as well as support the work we do. So that is it for announcements this morning. And want to now turn it over to Michael Tacey for initiating the spiritual part of our service with lighting our chalice.
Rise up, O flame, by thy light glowing, show to us beauty, vision, and joy. Rise up, O flame, by thy light glowing, show to us beauty, vision, and joy.
Thank you, Michael. As you can see, I have lit a chalice that I have here at my home, and I light it for every service. Chalice is our symbol of seeking after truth and enlightenment through our Sunday services. Now's a time for us to prepare our hearts and minds for what we will receive during this morning's service, what we will hear and see and experience. And our prelude time is a reflection time, as I said, to prepare our hearts and minds and reflect on the day's events or this service itself, and quiet our minds. Let us now have a time of prelude with a piece, let's see, that Michael has prepared, written by Stevie Wonder, entitled Higher Ground. Thank you, Michael. I often think that it would be great to be able to clone you, and you just did that. So many Michaels on the screen. We turn to Michael again for joining together, all of us, in the singing of our first hymn this morning, number 116 in your hymnals, if you have one, entitled I'm on My Way. This is a new one, I think, for me, but Michael will lead us in the singing of it. Michael?
Yeah, so it is new. I really like it, and it's super actually easy to follow along with once you know how it goes. So I encourage you to try singing along with this one. It's super easy. You'll get the pattern almost immediately, I guarantee.
I'm on my way to the freedom land. I'm on my way to the freedom land. I'm on my way to the freedom land. I'm on my way, great God. I'm on my way. I asked my sister, come and go with me. And I asked my brother, come and go with me. Yeah, I asked my sister, come and go with me. I'm on my way, great God, I'm on my way. If they say no, I'll go anyhow. If they say no, I'll go anyhow. If they say no, I'll go anyhow. I'm on my way, great God, I'm on my way. I'm on my way, and I won't turn back. I'm on my way, and I won't turn back. I'm on my way, and I won't turn back. I'm on my way, great God, I'm on my way.
Thank you, Michael. And now if everyone would join me together in repeating with me our Gathering in Northern Hills unison affirmation. We seek to create a welcoming community that celebrates human diversity, encourages spiritual growth, fosters responsiveness to our world, and commits to the future of all children. And thank you, everyone. I now have a very brief video to show to you. It relates to the topic of my message this morning. This young woman is an online blogger, and she has a slightly different perspective on the idea of surviving versus thriving. And I encourage you to listen to her and add her thoughts to thoughts that'll come from my message after she's finished. Michael?
Hey guys, welcome to your RTL Minute. Today I want to give you 60 seconds of how to fight your pain. It's not avoidable. It's a part of the process. It's a part of your life's journey. It's the cost of admission to play the game of life. So just accept that part. Things are going to hurt. Things are going to be uncomfortable. It does not mean you did something wrong. Doesn't mean all the time somebody did something to you. Just means that we're creatures who psychologically are wired for survival. And we're not wired to thrive. Okay, so our brains will try to protect us from anything that's gonna cause us harm, anything that's gonna, cause us any sort of pain, and gonna really try to keep us in our comfort zone. Hate that. Our comfort zone, right? Our brain wants us to be comfortable. Go after your pain. Pain is a part of the process. Once you learn to welcome the pain, once you can learn to embrace the pain, accept it as part of your journey, and actually start to find ways to sharpen your tools, build some muscle around how you mentally refuse to lose and make adversity your advantage. Ooh, Ooh, then you separate yourself from the crowd. Pain is a part of the process. Welcome it. You want to thrive, not just survive. Hope you guys have a great day.
A short and sweet and pithy message of great interest from that online blogger. Now, my message theme this month of July is surviving versus thriving. And today, the topic under that theme is embracing social responsibility. And about a month ago, a little bit over a month ago, in his message on May 28th, Michael Tacey said he was frustrated and even fed up with the often repeated mantra that we are living in extraordinary times. And while we can't deny how out of the ordinary these times are, I think, to continually call attention to that fact causes me, at least, and perhaps Michael, to focus on negatives. I often think that I can't be with all of you in person. My work and personal life are spent in relative isolation. I can't enjoy friends and family in person, or dinner parties, or going to the movie theater, or travel. Everything has changed, and all of my future plans have been completely upended. And I sometimes picture myself as adrift in a small boat that's in the middle of a storm, all at the mercy of how wind and wave will toss me about. And sometimes I just feel like I'm holding on for dear life. There have been times over the last few months that I've been very depressed. And I hate admitting that, because in many, many, many ways, I'm far better off than many other people in the world who are sick with the COVID-19 or sick in other ways, who are mourning the loss of a loved one, or who are unemployed, or perhaps even worse, working in a highly risky occupation relating to being infected by COVID. But my depressions cause me to dwell on my fears and worry a lot and resign myself to just getting through this time. In that sense, merely surviving seems or can seem for me like a victory. But it goes without saying that I think other people feel the same way as I do. Rates of depression are increasing around the world, even though most people aren't seeking help for that. And psychologists are warning of widespread post-traumatic stress disorders whenever this crisis is over. The psychologists also speak of choosing to change one's doom and gloom thoughts. The magazine Psychology Today reports that in very difficult times, it's essential that people dig deep to find an attitude of gratitude. We need to rewire our brains and cognitively change our thinking, even though that task can many times seem too hard, because depression promotes pessimism. We can tell ourselves we're not equipped to change, or we don't know how, or that we're all alone, and that we're afraid. But there are key attributes in people who don't just survive, they thrive. Survivors often withdraw. They feel unsatisfied, frustrated, resentful, or even angry. Their focus is far too often on just themselves. They think about how much they've lost. Survivors see themselves as victims. They're okay with the status quo. Importantly, they try to hide their feelings both to themselves and to others. People who thrive, on the other hand, are resilient. They can feel fulfilled and hopeful and actively engaged, even in times of trouble. Their focus is on helping others and finding meaning in that. They think about how much they still have. And importantly for them, they're authentic. And they're willing to both admit their vulnerability and seek ways to heal. What I've concluded is that I don't want to just survive this crisis. I don't want to waste a year or more of my life. I want to thrive by being more connected with friends and family, even with strangers. It's far more difficult to connect during this time. But as someone who wants to thrive, there are ways to connect and connect and connect again. And that would be the subject of my message next Sunday. But I also want to thrive by learning skills that will help me in my work and my life in general. And as I, along with everyone else, continue to age, I have to find ways to let go of the past and not worry about the future. We all know that the only time we can literally control is the right now. And a crucial way to do that is to not necessarily change our present circumstances, which are often out of our control, but instead changing the way we think about our circumstances. I want to feel the peace that comes from letting go, not worrying, and seeking personal growth. And that will be the subject or my topic 2 weeks from now. Most of all, however, I want to eliminate a quote unquote me-centered way of thinking. I've said in past messages that I believe the original sin for humanity, and one that still persists, is selfishness. Many people are programmed to think mostly about their needs, their happiness, their wants, their desires, their feelings, their opinions. That's not only human nature, it's been a leading philosophy, I think, over the last several hundred years. Individualism is the foundation of Western economics and, of course, of Western democracy. Despite that, it is also, I think, the cause of greed and anger and hate and all forms of discrimination. I believe that to thrive, people must adopt social responsibility that sees life in terms of we, not me. It's not just the me that needs the basics of life satisfied, like food, shelter, and healthcare. Everyone needs those things. And that is a focus of meeting everyone's needs of people who thrive. Social responsibility and concern for communal needs, I think, are the root motivations for peace, generosity, empathy, love, equality, and well-being. It's a timeless irony that if most people think less about themselves and more about others, every single individual will paradoxically be happier. When everyone has their needs met, logically, each individual is satisfied too. Meism is survival thinking, a form of cognition at the lowest level. We-ism is a thriving mindset at the highest level. Social responsibility is therefore my topic for this morning. And social responsibility is defined as ethical thinking in which individuals are accountable for promoting communal well-being. People's actions are guided by what is good for the whole and not just the individual. And that crucially requires a balance between satisfying personal needs with satisfying or meeting or providing for the welfare of both society and the earth. The ancient Greek philosopher Plato, in his famous and well-known book, The Republic, originated the concept of a civically minded citizen. And Plato suggested 4 socially responsible virtues. A good or civically minded citizen must be prudent. He or she must be just. He or she must be courageous. And he or she must be modest in their wants. From these, Plato believed come added virtues of humility, peacefulness, frugality, kindness, generosity, and compassion. Importantly, socially responsible people and businesses are balanced between focusing on the 4 virtues I just mentioned, while also meeting their own needs. A business can't be a force for good in the community if it does not make enough to pay its employees living wages and benefits, and return a small profit to its investors. And in the same way, each of us as individuals cannot be focused on the needs of others if we do not first take care of ourselves. Sadly, social responsibility has long been criticized as leftist, communist, or naive. American and Western European cultures bought into the false idea that it's the rugged individual who pulls him or herself up by their bootstraps that enables personal or community success. If a person killed indigenous people, took their land, cut down their trees, and plowed their ground, that has historically been considered progress. If someone owned another human being to do his or her work, that was considered wise. If millions of people could be persuaded to leave their farms and move to city tenements to work in dangerous factories at low wages, that was innovation. If water, air, and land was despoiled by trains and planes and cars, but that made life easier for individuals, that was somehow good. All of these things were falsely promoted as individualism making America great. The reality, I think, was and is far different. America has always operated as a social compact from the time of the Pilgrims onward. Our nationhood, America's nationhood, was won and has been defended through common sacrifice. America's governing ideals were founded on the premise that all persons are equal. Natives, Africans, Europeans, and immigrants alike. America's railroads and factories and trading ports were built on public land and serviced by public taxes. Our nation's businesses were accessed via public roads and protected by tax-supported police and fire departments. Our workforce was educated in public schools. It's been we, the people, that's made America succeed, not some false notion of rugged individualism. Indeed, I claim that individualism has caused far more problems, both individually and collectively, than almost any other quote unquote ism. And that's true not just for America, but for all societies since time began. Clans, tribes, villages, and empires would not have existed had there not been a social compact of cooperation between people. That truth is echoed in spirituality. The Jewish and Old Testament prophet Isaiah, writing thousands of years ago, demanded that people, quote, learn to do good and seek justice and rebuke the oppressor. He asked that they defend the fatherless and plead for the widow. And the Christian New Testament does the same by encouraging people not just to look out for themselves or their own families, but to quote unquote pursue peace with all people. Indeed, very, very early ancient Christian communities that were thriving around 2,000 years ago were socially responsible and cooperative communities. The New Testament says this about them, quote, all were together and had everything in common. They sold their property and possessions to give to anyone who had need. Every day, they continued to meet together in the temple courts. They broke bread in their homes, ate together with glad and sincere hearts, end quote. And so in other words, to be spiritual, to be a decent and good person, to be someone who is happy and thriving, civic and spiritual thinking promotes social responsibility, not selfish individualism. And this idea that to thrive, we must dedicate ourselves to social responsibility is one we must especially practice right now during the COVID crisis. Every single person on this planet must adopt attitudes that deny individual selflessness and instead embrace selflessness. To reasonably isolate, wear a face mask in public, socially distance oneself around others, not hoard food or other needed items, and forgo meeting in large groups. These are all forms of social responsibility. Failing to do these is pure and simple selfishness. Sadly, there exists a mindset in many people that individual freedoms are superior somehow to the needs of the wider community. Such people have a me first, my way or the highway form of thinking. I don't care about your health or your life, some people may think. I care only about my freedom to do as I please, which includes not wearing a face mask, and includes me being able to go out to a crowded bar, attend a church, or gather at a political rally. Ironically, such selfish thinking is counterproductive to what the narcissists want. Individual well-being and freedom will thrive again only if we each selflessly do our part to end this pandemic. It continues to amaze me why that logical truth is not more widely accepted, as it is in other nations. A recent study says that if every single person on earth was legally mandated to wear a face mask in public, the rate of the COVID infection and the death rate would be significantly reduced. One reason why many Americans don't want such a law is, as I said earlier, our Western-oriented thinking that fails to recognize the interdependence of everything. And as an example, Michael is just gonna, for a few seconds, 10, 15 seconds, post a picture. Now I want you, as you look at it, to think to yourself what it depicts. Okay, thank you, Michael. If you describe to yourself the picture as one of a bridge, experts say you've bought into Western-oriented thinking. People from Eastern cultures, however, predominantly describe the same picture we just saw as one of a forest. with a bridge in it. Indeed, the majority of the picture, if you recall it, comprises a forest, and the bridge is just one element within it. Eastern cultures see people and all of nature as interdependent. All of existence depends on mutuality, they believe. Everything and everyone is connected, and nothing and no one is separate unto itself or themselves. Westerners instead see people and things as independent entities that exist apart from everything else. In many ways, this difference of thinking explains why many Asian countries right now have been more successful at fighting the COVID virus. The United States accounts for just over 4% of the world's population, and yet America overwhelmingly leads the world in COVID infections and deaths. I attribute that to many Americans having an individualist or selfish perspective. Eastern nations of China, Japan, Taiwan, and South Korea have certainly been challenged by the virus, but their population's willingness to be socially responsible for the good of the whole has helped bring their rates of infection and resulting deaths under control. And it is, I must note here, very easy for me, and I think many people, to see flaws in others, but not recognize them in ourselves. Honest self-reflection by myself, to find areas of selfishness in me, and hopefully for you to self-reflect for yourself. I think that's a worthy cause. And again, social responsibility is about balancing the needs of oneself for those of the community. We can only help others if we first have met our own basic needs. Despite that, I believe many of us don't realize how we often think and act according to just what's best for me and not the we. Unitarian Universalists, I think, particularly value the right of every person to express their opinions. But that obviously does not mean every opinion can be followed, or that one person's ideas should take precedence over the opinion of the wider community. For me, it takes humility and selflessness to accept the wisdom of the whole. One doesn't need to change his or her individual opinion, but one must, with grace, accept community beliefs and practices. And that means not adopting a my way or the highway way of thinking. One that says, I disagree with the community, so I'm out of here. For one thing, we'll never find a perfect community. Furthermore, by remaining and gently working within a community to create change, we can make a difference. And interestingly, Native Americans particularly embrace that form of communal thinking by their reasoning that if a community makes a wrong decision, Native Americans believe time and patience will correct it. I'm deeply troubled by the selfishness I see, certainly in myself, but in the wider world. I see selfishness in me, in our nation, in our church, in my friends and my family. None of us are immune from it. And social media, I think, makes it worse, with everyone believing they not only can opine on any matter, but that they alone are right and all others are wrong. As we know, that can lead to hatred and violence of speech and action by conservatives and by liberals. I suggest that in order for us to individually and collectively thrive, humans need much less individualism and much less self-righteousness. 8 billion people on this planet can only increase the welfare for all if every single person sees themselves as a part of the greater whole. Another endeavor that's suggested is to purposely focus one's mind on how often one thinks and says me or I, and try to instead think and say we or us. Social responsibility is far more than just doing what is right during this pandemic. It's a holistic way of thinking that diminishes but does not eliminate thoughts of the self. Social responsibility promotes and encourages thoughts of compassion and mutuality toward all. And I thank you for listening, and I wish each and every one of you much peace and joy. And now with the assistance of Michael and I, and if you wish, I welcome your thoughts, perhaps about how you are trying to thrive during this unique time, not extraordinary, but or your thoughts or comments about my topic this morning, the idea of me versus we. Please, if you have a comment or would like to say something, raise your hand and we can try and see you, or you can signal using the chat feature that you would like to speak. I welcome now any and all comments or thoughts.
Go ahead, Jack.
Jack, go ahead and speak.
Hi, Doug.
Hi, Jack. I'm glad you made it. I'm sorry I didn't see you joined us earlier.
I was supposed to be the service leader, but I had technical difficulties. I failed the quiz on the bridge. I went for the bridge. I thought in my own mind I was looking to bridge a gap between myself and the people on the other side or something like that. So that's what went through my mind. But I think your message is just spot on today. I wish it had been delivered from Mount Rushmore or the National Mall instead of what was heard. It really makes me think about trying to do more and trying to think more of the collective mindset. One little thing I do feel I did the other day to thrive, an African-American guy had his car break down just down the street outside my garage. My garage opens on a pretty busy street, and there's a lot of diverse traffic that goes between Clifton and Avondale. But where he was stuck, it's right around where a lot of white people live, and it was hot, and he was like waiting for help. And I thought, not only is this guy hot and probably could use a bottle of water, maybe he's just uneasy standing there with his broken down car in an area where, in that immediate area, all the people are white. So I went and got him a bottle of water and gave it to him and just said, "You look like you could use a bottle of water." And he was on the phone, I think, trying to get somebody to come help him or whatever, but so we didn't really talk. But he said thanks and he smiled, and so I felt I had made at least a tiny connection.
Yeah, and you know, it's something that I know so often do. I'm in a rush to get somewhere or whatever, and I see somebody broken down beside the road, and I figure, well, they'll get it handled by themselves without thinking that I can be a help. So that's good, Jack. other thoughts about how you might be thriving during this time or about my topic? Nobody, I see. That's no problem. I do thank you for listening. And I do hope we, each of us consider, as I said, my subject of having a thought process of just about me versus enlarging that and thinking more and more and more about we. Thank you again. And Jack, would you like to take over or do you want me to continue?
Oh, I'd be happy to take over if that's good. Now we are on sharing our wealth, and if you're a member of GNH, please take this time to financially support the work we do. You may go to the online donation site to donate by credit card. But Doug, did you already speak about the Givelify app?
I did briefly, but this is if you've got an account, it's great. Or if you don't have an account, it will help you in the future. If you want to just spontaneously, quote unquote, drop $1 or $2 in the symbolic church basket.
And we're going to have some music here. March March by the Chicks, who are not the Dixie Chicks anymore. And so if you have a few moments here, if you're able to write a check or do something else to support the work of GNH. Thank you.
Sorry about that. I was messing with this. I also want to apologize that my camera is just not, it just doesn't want to cooperate with me today. So I just want to say real quick that I think this song is a good illustration of kind of the other side of Doug's message here, which is, you know, I think that the other social responsibility that we all have nowadays, in addition to the COVID thing, you know, wearing the mask, but I do think that there's a big movement happening, and we're becoming more aware of the inequities in our country. And this song is kind of about, you know, each individual's responsibility for justice. And I really like it, and so I added a little my thoughts on it during the actual song in the video you'll see. So hope you guys enjoy this. I really respected what the band formerly known as the Dixie Chicks did. So
March, march to my own drum. March, march to my own drum. Hey, hey, I'm an army of one. Ooh, I'm an army of one. March, march to my own drum. March, march to my own drum. Hey, hey, I'm an army of one. Ooh, I'm an army of one. Parents begging you 'cause you don't like Mondays. Underpaid teacher, police in the hallways. Raise yourself a weapon and take it to the gun range. Cut the shit, you ain't going to the gun range. Standing with Emma and something our daughters. Watching our youth have to solve our problems. I'll follow them, so who's coming with me? Half of you love me and half already hate me. March, march to my own drum. March, march to my own drum.
Doug, are we ready to go to Joys and Sorrows here?
Yes, we are.
Okay. There's the green switch I was waiting for. Now it's time for us to share our joys and sorrows if we wish. This is a spiritual time during which you may share your thoughts. If you wish to speak, you can signal that on the chat or raise your hand, or if you would prefer to just type in your thoughts, I'll be happy to read them.
Jack, I would just like to highlight everyone to keep in their thoughts two individuals who were recently hospitalized. Phyllis Berenson had surgery she needed knee surgery last year, and she's been in quite a bit of pain for the last 6 months. Surgery was originally scheduled for March and then had to be delayed because of COVID, and it was finally rescheduled for June 30th. She just had it this last week. She is back at home. She reports that the pain is miraculously for her much less, and she's undergoing physical therapy. She welcomes emails or cards, but let's keep Phyllis in our thoughts. Mary Lou Othman was recently in the hospital as well, related to some previous health challenge she's had, but she's back at home. Her spirits are you wouldn't expect anything else from Mary Lou, but very high and happy. And she is someone who loves to receive phone calls and chat on the phone. So if you want to drop her an email or even just call her up for some brief good wishes, Mary Lou welcomes that. And last but not least, Ginny Patterson, who has been really going through a very difficult time almost last year, of many health challenges all piling up on once. And she continues to suffer, slowly getting better, but she's still in a lot of pain. So keep her in your thoughts as well.
Well, I think this is the point where we would drop a stone, would we not, for all the joys and sorrows which weren't expressed today but are still in people's hearts. So figuratively, I will do that. And now we will sing together or sing apart here in our various locations. Now let us sing. If anybody's got a book, it's number 368.
Sing to the power of the faith within. Sing to the power of the faith within. Lift up your voice, be not afraid. Sing to the power of the faith within. Now let us sing, 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 sing. Now let us sing, 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 sing. Lift up your voice, be not afraid. Now let us sing to the power of the faith within. Now let us sing to the power of the faith within. Now let us sing to the power of the faith within. Lift up your voice, be not afraid. Sing to the power of the faith within. Now let us sing to the power of the faith.
power of the joy within. Lift up your voice, be not afraid. Sing to the power of the joy within.
Very nice. I like the rhythm of that. Just closing words here. I'm going to stand up. I'm all proud of my T-shirt. Look.
Ah,
And
Nice.
I just liked one, I don't know, one part of Michael's commentary on the Chicks song. Just I think he said they made a bad decision or a incorrect decision, but they owned it and they changed it. And obviously the world could use a lot more of that. And now the service is concluded. Please place a hand over your heart to communicate your love to all who are attending this service. And everyone is encouraged to join together for online social connection. Doug and Michael will handle putting the small groups together that we can have a cup of coffee and talk via Zoom. And thanks everyone for taking part in the service today and hearing a really, I'll say it again, I thought it was a great message by Doug.
thank you, everyone.
Agreed.
I'm going to divide us up into some small groups, and we'll be in small